Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and I am coming at you with new reading resolutions. Even though it's July, not anywhere near close to a new year, but I do love that kind of year, and I love setting new goals. And over the month of June, I kept thinking of all these ways that I need to genuinely change what I read or get more purposeful about my reading. So I came up with a short list of new resolutions that I have already begun to enact. I just thought, hey, let's make it content. So here are my mid-year, but hopefully long-standing new reading resolutions. So one of the big things, probably the biggest thing that I'm going to work on is reading more serious, hard-hitting nonfiction. And what I mean by that is those kinds of books that are meant to educate you and change the way you act in the world around you. Anti-racism or trauma-based things, or the histories that are probably going to make you sad, but you need to read them anyway. A lot of this had to do with all the anti-racism books I read over the course of June. I don't want that to stop. I also realized the other day that I know basically next to nothing about the Stonewall riots and the history of Pride, so that's one of the ones I'm going to be looking into. But basically, I want to hit more of the serious educational stuff that, let's be honest, BookTube tends to ignore entirely. I'm also particularly looking into psychology books dealing with trauma, specifically trauma in children and fostering, because I am a foster parent, and I was hoping to find something in the realm of like Black children in the foster care system, but I can't find a lot. Most of the transracial stuff I can find is for like white people who adopted babies from China. But I'll keep looking for that. In general, though, I want to read at least one of those hard-hitting nonfiction books a month to make sure that I'm actually educating myself and not just relying on representations of fictionalized people to do the educating for me. Next up is my new take on traditional publishing. Now, this is not me saying that I am now a huge fan of trad books. I am still the indie hipster that I have always been and will always be, and pretty much the only books I accept for review these days are indie. However, I have done some deep thought, and I am going to expand the amount of traditional books I read specifically for authors that are own voices and diverse. A lot of authors of color or queer authors or neurodiverse authors. Specifically own voices. I'm not pulling a Becky Albertalli or anything. And specifically books dealing with those topics, or at least adjacent. Like, it can be a light, fluffy romance between, two boys of color written by a queer author of color, for example. But I realized that if I want to be an ally for that kind of thing, the biggest way to be an ally is to support the big avenues that are going to get those books out to a wide audience. And also, I am currently soft closed to review requests for indie books, save for diverse reads. And honestly, it's just more fun. It's just reading a wide range of diversity in books makes you wonder how you ever got caught up in the white, straight, cis nonsense, because it's so much wider a taste, if that makes sense. So I'm going to continue to do that. I've already checked out a lot of books from my library. Still too cheap to buy a lot of those, but my library tells me how much money I've saved, and that makes me happy. So yes, still not reading like the super hyped Sarah J. Maas, whatever, don't care. But I do want to support those trad books that are raising the voices that have been severely ignored in years past. And then I'll go back to my indie books too. So, this next one flies in the face of everything I've said before. But again, it worked really well for me in June, so we're going to try. And that is, I'm going to start making monthly TBRs. Now, not monthly TBRs in these are all the books that I'm going to read exactly. More like a small amount of books that I need to read, that I need to have on a list, and then wiggle room around it. so that I still have a chance to be like, you know what, I'm not feeling this book, I'm picking up this other one, and I haven't lost anything. Because even as I got really close to reading every book on like the 4 different TBRs I made for June, I still switched some out. So I can't guarantee that I would read a full TBR that they did set up, but I'm kind of like playing around with the idea of certain TBRs and doing that moving forward. I haven't gotten the exact like methodology down yet, because I don't just want to do the standard randomized thing. I want it to be a little bit more purposeful, but also have some wiggle room. So I'm still working on that one. And right now, for the month of July, I just have a readathon TBR, which is kind of small, but I'm going to hope for the month of August that I can change things and make them work better moving forward. And the last one on my new reading resolutions is to work on series. It is so hard to work on series for a booktube channel because you inherently can't talk a lot about those books on your channel unless they're very, very, very popular, to the extent that you can assume a large portion of anyone watching would have read it. And so as a result, it's really hard to want to keep reading series when you're making content. First books get more views. But I have recently created a spreadsheet of all of the non-review series that I need to catch up on, and it's getting bigger by the day. So I'm going to start, again, a couple of those a month, a book, continuing a series that I have started previously. And considering some of the series I have started previously are like mid-grades, I can probably do this fairly easily. I still got to work on Percy Jackson. But I want to have more series finished because as much of a consummate DNFer as I am, it happens a lot that I just totally forget to pick up the next book in a series I was enjoying and just never finish it. So I gotta work on getting better at that, and I will likely be making more videos about that, you know, the series I need to complete or the series that I finished this year, because then you get to talk about the whole series as kind of like a general thing, and it gives you more content, because apparently that's all my reading's about right now, even though super struggling and coming up with video ideas, but that's neither here nor there. So that is it, my small reading resolutions list going into the end of the year and hopefully beyond. For the most part, all of the resolutions I set up at the beginning are still more or less there. I have not started reading The Petite Prince, so I might need to work on that. But I am definitely going to set a good reading goal for myself next year, because even with everything going on, I'm still on track to finish my 100 books for the year by September. So I might just have to give myself a bigger challenge. I don't know. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. If you've changed any reading habits lately, please let me know in the comments down below. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.